if you suffer from imposter syndrome, or this belief that you're not good enough, there's some important things that you can remember. So my history is customer services, and then currently for the last 16, 17 years, head injury rehabilitation. And I've worked with lots of young male adults with head injuries and with that behavioural problems. And I could be in a clinical setting and have zero idea of what they were talking about when it comes to the brain. There's philosophies and psychologies with Jung and Freud, which I just don't understand. And, you could get into Felix Fritz. And these are like people I know nothing about, and I don't really understand or know their work. And they could break down everything that I do at work and explain all the motivations. They could explain all the motivations and reasons why I became the person I've become and what my struggles were. But what I was really good at doing is, despite a clinical example or a clinical definition of why a client behaved a certain way, in that moment, in a shop or in a sitting room, in their house, when there's an incident happening, maybe they're losing their temper, maybe they don't understand and they're having a meltdown from frustration, and you have to handle them. I just understood people, not clinically in any way, shape or form. Some people, for want of a better term, are just streetwise. And you can apply this to anything. We worry sometimes that we're not a master. We haven't got there yet. We're not the go-to person. We don't know everything there is to know. And in doing that, we forget what we do know and what we're good at. You could play music, say you're playing music, but if you're going to compare yourself to the greats that have been playing music for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, when you've been playing guitar or piano for a couple of years, then you're going to feel inadequate. But it doesn't mean you can't play the piano or play the guitar. If you're going to compare yourself to a native speaker of a language who understands dialects and tones and context, you're always going to feel inferior. But it doesn't mean you can't speak the language. Just in comparison to the person that you're projecting yourself onto. And we do this, and we then get imposter syndrome, where we feel we don't belong in this space that we want to be in. And it's because we're trying to elevate ourselves to somebody that we consider and that we've projected is a master of that trade, a master of that skill. And we're forgetting the hours, years they've put into honing that talent or learning that skill. So I'm never going to become the world's greatest psychologist. I've never studied psychology. I've no qualifications in it. But I actually have a very good understanding of human behaviour, and I'm a good listener. And not everything can be learned in a textbook. And sometimes we forget. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but think of a welder and an engineer. There's an engineer sat in an office doing designs, but a welder's going to be the one that puts that art together, builds that structure. There's a steel worker somewhere. One, if you wanted, you could argue one is less intelligent than the other, but they both have different skill sets that demand talent and learning. And we have to be careful of how we compare ourselves to somebody, especially when you're starting out, especially when you're learning a new skill, because the person you're going to compare yourself to is beyond a vision that you can see of yourself. And when we do this with academia, or when we do it with high talent skill sets, we're often focused on the outliers, the people with the best of the best of the best. Well, if you're just starting out and that's where you're comparing yourself to, you're going to feel like an imposter. You're going to feel like a fraud. You're always going to notice where you fell short. You have to reverse it, invert it, look at it differently. Look at where you were last month, last week, yesterday. Look at where you can be next week, next month, next year. It's gradual processes, gradual steps. Follow those steps. Let that be your lead. And you'll start to see yourself elevate. You'll notice the elevations. You'll notice the improvements. And that's what you should be seeking for yourself. And that's how you prevent yourself from feeling like you're an imposter who doesn't belong somewhere. If you'd like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, please check out the link below and get in touch. I look forward to working with you.